lifting of these restrictions sets a bad precedent for the neighborhood, because if it is a burden on the other neighbors, you're going to see a rash of people coming in here want to get the same treatment as these people are getting for one piece of property in the neighborhood, in the district. So we just initiated this zoning change within the last 10 years, and every major neighborhood organization, every major developer, property owner signed off on it. And now they want to kind of chip away at it a little bit.
Mr. Pusher, you're at time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lade or Dr. Vander, you have a moment to rebut.
I'm going to rebut on behalf of the Caillou Center, and I'll leave it to Jonathan to rebut in terms of BTC. So in terms of off-street parking, we have off-street parking. We have a parking lot that is shared during the day. In the evenings, after 6, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., the Andre Caillou Center controls the parking lot. We were also offered overflow parking by the Waldorf School, which is behind us. So we have sufficient parking. That's the one thing I want to be clear about. The second thing is that during the day, we have activities that are happening during the day, and we have assigned parking. We have continuously notified anyone coming to the building to work, to hold meetings, that to read the signs will designate where our parking spots are. The other thing is, because we are still a theater space, a lot of times the doors are closed because the theater companies are in rehearsal. So there is activity that is happening during the day in the space. When the rehearsal's in, we weave in meetings. There's a way for us to generate some revenue. And then at night, we come back for an actual performance. So we have figured out, and we're still working through, how best to utilize the space so that we can support ourselves, so that we are not a repeating organization that fails in that space. We have been intentional, we have been thoughtful, and again, we are maximizing not just the building usage, but also the parking space, and we've received support from neighbors with commercial or nonprofit areas that also have parking, that are allowing us to use the parking so that we can best succeed. So that's.
Mr. Lade, you have 1 minute.
Just 2 notes. One, this is understand, and I did misspeak. There is another property with an off-street parking lot. That property for years was leased to Uber, and that use of Uber, while maybe was responding to the market, did create actually a lot of traffic and parking problems throughout the neighborhood. We have a very large parking lot with 24 off-street spaces that's utilized and shared during the day and in the evening. I think more importantly, though, is around community. And every month there is a Bayou Road Business Association meeting for, I think we're up to 6 years now. And we participate in every single one. And I know that other property owners do not always participate. And so when there are issues that come up, that they're brought to, there's a mechanism for dealing with that. And that there's a community-led and community-based mechanism for dealing with that. And that is how we do. So thank you.
Thank you. The public portion is now closed. If there's any comments or questions for staff or motion?
I have another question for staff. In other uses, just like this one, not necessarily in the overlay district, what are the timing and time restriction and alcohol service restrictions for performance venues, such as what's being proposed?
Yeah, so outside of this district, generally you'll find them generally in the CBD. There is no restriction in terms of timing. The ability to have a live performance venue outlines a range of uses that can occupy the facility. And there's an ability to serve alcohol. There's not a time restriction placed on that. So it's generally within operating hours.
Thank you.
I just want to make clear that it's not asking for a spot zoning change, correct? The application is for a conditional use.
Yeah, so a spot zoning is a term that refers to when you actually rezone a particular property. This would amend a conditional use, so it wouldn't meet that definition.
Any other discussion or motion?
I think I'm gonna, make the motion I made for the last time, which was, or Commissioner Steig made it, I don't remember. Expanding the use to what they would like to have, including art, comedy performances, music classes, dance classes, and keeping the alcohol service, 1 hour before and during the performance. I just say this only because I think the size of the venue lends itself to having more impact on this little street than maybe some of the others do in this overlay. So that's where I am on this.
A motion by Commissioner Brown, looking for a second.
So there's no second, so I'm gonna weigh in on the motion that might receive a second.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion. I'm gonna go against staff recommendation and do a motion for approval of the application. I think that this is such a community benefit in this space and have been involved with driving around the neighborhood for the last 15, 20 years and just seeing how it's been activated with the use and a great adaptive reuse space in here. And I feel like there's a lot of internal control in terms of the users of the space as well. And I would like to go ahead and make that motion. And I appreciate you coming and speaking opposition. I know it's a lot to come down here, but also, you know, a lot of our zoning codes are antiquated and we have to have these public hearings to go ahead and see what the public input is and to be able to see what changes may possibly be made. So thank you for your time. But I am going to go ahead and that's my motion.
I second, I heard, we heard this in the last meeting, we heard it in this meeting. I feel for the success of organizations such as what's being proposed is vital to forwarding the culture of our city.
The only way I think I can support this is if we have some clarity with the hours of operation. Because from what I'm hearing from the applicant, the very service itself of the cocktail could be part of the performance. So it gives me a little bit of pause. I mean, curated cocktails sound great, but if that's going to be part of the performance, we're lending ourselves to 24 hours. I'm
think
not sure. but-
They have an end
Well,
timing that's proposed.
Okay,
in their
midnight
application.
on weekends. Is that it? Midnight on weekends?
They have a timing that's proposed. Of Tuesday through Thursday, 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. and on Friday and 2 to 11 on Saturday and Sunday. And I think, we have to be consistent with other performance venues throughout the city if a performance venue has to be successful, because those performance venues do not have any restrictions as per staff when I just asked them that very question.
I think just to jump in here, it might be helpful for the applicant to just confirm what the hours that are being sought, because I read the amended application as not specifying hard hours, but just to say within a certain time of when the performance occurs.
Could we ask?
Oh, Mr. Lake, can you come up and clarify, please?
In the summary.
So there's two things. There's the hours of operation, which are not limited, right? This is about our hours of alcohol sales. So for the hours of alcohol sales, what we first proposed the last meeting, we were comfortable with, but again, given feedback, we agreed to amend it and came back with the idea of let's follow the way the CZO is currently written, which is tied to performances, which we're equally comfortable with. So for you and staff, I mean, we can follow the hours that were in our original application or the amended ones, which are tying alcohol sales to the performance times.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, there is a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Is that Commissioner Jordan has recused himself?
Commissioner Browner, just, is that clarification that it's tied to the performance hours?
Well, it's not clear enough, I think, to have enforcement, and that's my only issue with this. So I'm reluctantly, I'd love to see the space used. It sounds like you're gonna have some great performances, but unless I have some concrete, more specific hours and service, I'm afraid I can't support it as it stands.
Would that be like 11 to 1, or you would rather have it more specific than that?
Hours during the week and hours on the weekend. Where are we on this motion? Where was it specified?
It was not specified because I was going with the amended application, which would be the performance hours. Stephen, do you mind reading those to us, please?
Yeah, so the amended application
Mr. Kroll.
does not specify exact hours. It says it's permitted to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption on site 1 hour prior to performances, during performances, and until 1 hour after performance concludes.
And then just for clarity, the initial application.
So what I have here is from 4 PM to midnight, Tuesday through Thursday, 4 PM to 1 AM on Friday, and 2 PM, 11 PM on Saturday and Sunday.
And that's just for alcohol service. That's not close of business.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Anyway. Current application. So just to be clear, I'm going against staff. I'm going to restate my motion. I'm going to go against staff recommendation, and because I believe this is a community benefit, and I'd like to be able at some point to add spoken word to our live music and multidisciplinary into a live entertainment definition, because I think that would be helpful.